Hello, welcome to English for Everyone, where we practice real-life American English. Today we're going to learn to avoid some important mistakes with pronunciation. So let's get started. Let's look at these two words. The first word is physical. Physical. But if I put ly on it, we don't say physically, we say physically. Why? Because when you see C-A-L-L-Y at the end of a word, the A is almost always silent. We pronounce it clee, clee. Not just in this word, physically, but in many other words. So let's practice with the word physically. Pronunciation. Physically. The first two vowels are the short I sound, like this is. Physically. Put the k and the L sound together. Clee, clee. And the last syllable is a long E, like green beans. Physically. Put the stress on the first syllable. Phys. Physically.
It is physically impossible. Even your elbow is out of my reach.
It's physically impossible. Don't worry.
It is physically impossible for me to get happy.
It's physically impossible for all four counties to finish a hand recount in 5 days.
Example. It's impossible for a normal human, any human, to pick up a car. I can say it's physically impossible. It's physically impossible to pick up a car. Let's practice. Is it physically impossible for a human to pick up a car? That's right. It's physically impossible for a human to pick up a car. Now we see these two words, practical and practically. We do not say practically because you have C-A-L-L-Y, the A is silent, so it's pronounced practically. Clee at the end. Put the sounds together. Clee. Practically.
Alex Larson? He's my old pal.
Practically brothers.
All you Goombas are practically brothers, right?
It's practically a religion for me, sir.
She is making me a dress and practically for free.
Example. These two girls are not sisters, but they're best friends. They're almost sisters. They act like sisters. They're kind of sisters, but not really. So I use practically. They're practically sisters. These two girls are best friends. They're not sisters, but they spend all their time together. So, are they practically sisters? That's right, they're practically sisters. Now we look at sympathetic and sympathetically. The adjective is sympathetic, but the adverb is sympathetically. Remember, with C-A-L-L-Y, the A is silent, so it's pronounced clee. Sympathetically. The T is between vowels, so it's pronounced like a fast D. Sympathetic. Thetic. Sympathetically. The TH is the soft th sound, like think and thank you. Sympathetically. Example. She feels sorry for her friend. She's sympathetic. And she looks at her friend sympathetically. Or I can say in the past, she looked. She looked at her sympathetically. She felt sorry for her and she looked at her sympathetically. She felt bad for her and she looked at her sympathetically. Let's practice. Did she feel bad for her friend? That's right, she felt bad for her friend. Did she look at her sympathetically? That's right, she looked at her sympathetically. Now let's look at these two words. Psychological and psychologically. With psychological, we pronounce the A, psychological. But with C-A-L-L-Y, the A is silent. So you hear psychologically, clee at the end. Psychologically. Remember, the P is silent, so we start with the S sound. Psych. The CH makes a k sound, a hard K sound. Psych. Psychologically.
The Democratic Party has been in the dumps psychologically and in disarray ideologically.
So all it did was you had to do something psychologically that was against the rules.
Medically, psychologically, and physically, he's fascinating.
Keep the slave physically strong, but psychologically weak and dependent on the slave master.
Example. The boy was psychologically damaged. His parents didn't take care of him. His parents neglected him. This word is neglected. It means when you don't take care of something. And his parents didn't take care of him. His parents neglected him. Or I can use passive voice and say he was neglected by his parents. And that's why now he's psychologically damaged. Let's practice. Was he neglected by his parents? That's right, he was neglected by his parents. So now, is he psychologically damaged? That's right, now he's psychologically damaged. Let's look at these two words, specific and specifically. Remember, the end of the word is pronounced cli, cli. Specifically. Specifically.
I specifically told you not to go in there.
I know that lifeguard called the police department specifically to cancel the dispatch.
Hey.
I specifically told you I wanted a buyer who would not destroy Christmas land.
You were specifically told you couldn't go on spring break.
I asked you specifically to not get involved.
The chicken, but more specifically, the skin.
I asked you specifically to stay in the car.
Example, she burned her face. She got a sunburn on her face. So she burned her face. But more specifically, her cheeks and forehead. So she burned her face, but more specifically, she burned her cheeks and forehead. Let's practice. Did she burn her face? That's right, she burned her face. But more specifically, did she burn her forehead and cheeks? That's right, more specifically, she burned her forehead and cheeks. Now let's look at these two words, surgical and surgically. Remember, the end of the word is pronounced cli, cli, surgically. The first syllable is like burger, sir, surge, surgic, surgically.
Supposedly indestructible. It's been surgically grafted to his entire skeleton.
You said you had the tumor surgically removed.
Today, I am going to saw through their breastbones, rip open their rib cages, and surgically remove their beating hearts.
Every colonist had one surgically implanted.
Surgically removed before embryo implantation.
Example, his appendix was removed. It was removed in surgery. So I can say his appendix was surgically removed. He had an operation and his appendix was surgically removed. Let's practice. Did he have an operation? That's right, he had an operation. Was his appendix surgically removed? That's right, his appendix was surgically removed. Now let's look at these two words, tragic and tragically. Tragic is an adjective and tragically is an adverb. Pronunciation, tragically. The TR makes a ch sound like chicken. Plus the R together, chur, chur. Tragic. Use the short A sound like black cat. Tragic. Tragically.
I understand that your parents died tragically.
Well, he was married and then his wife died tragically.
Theirs seemed to be a charmed life until March 14th, 1987, when their parents died tragically in a car crash.
As you probably know, he died tragically in a fire before you were born.
The wonderful actress who died tragically in a fire in the mid-70s.
I can describe how somebody died. I can say he died tragically. He died tragically in the accident. Let's practice. What happened? Did he die tragically in the accident? That's right, he died tragically in the accident. And we look at these two words, basic and basically. Remember, the last part of the word is cli, cli. The A is silent. Basically. The first syllable is a long A, like say and pay. Bay. Basic. The S is a true S, like star. S. Basic. Basically.
Look, this whole station is basically a big fusion reactor.
The two of you, you're basically my only friends. And the last thing that I would ever want to do would be to hurt you.
I think you're basically a good person.
Yeah, I believe you, and I know you're basically a good person.
She's a somebody. And you? You're basically a nobody.
Example, a chicken wing is a chicken wing. But what is a boneless chicken wing? A boneless chicken wing is not a wing. It's basically a chicken nugget. It's not a wing at all. A boneless chicken wing is basically a chicken nugget. Let's practice. What do you think? What is a boneless chicken wing? Is it basically a chicken nugget? That's right. A boneless chicken wing is basically a chicken nugget. So that's the rule. When you see C-A-L-L-Y, the A is silent. Is it always silent? Almost always. There are a few exceptions. Let's take a look at those. With these words, we have one syllable before C-A-L-L-Y. If you have only one syllable before C-A-L-L-Y, then the A is not silent. Example, vocally. There's only one syllable before C-A-L-L-Y. So the A is not silent. We pronounce it vocally, vocally. And the word locally. You see, there's only one syllable before C-A-L-L-Y, so the A is not silent. Locally. And the last word is fiscally. Again, there's only one syllable before C-A-L-L-Y, so the A is not silent. Fiscally. What do these words mean? Let's take a closer look. So we have these two words, vocal and vocally. You're talking about your voice. Vocal is an adjective, and vocally is an adverb. Example, I can say he's vocally talented. He can sing. I'm talking about his voice, so I say he's vocally talented. Or I can say he's vocally gifted. It's the same idea.
God, I'm just not sure you can do it vocally.
He's headed for real trouble unless he learns not to be so vocally antisocial.
And these two words, local and locally. Local is an adjective and locally is an adverb. You're talking about the area near you. Example, locally sourced. Many restaurants say that all their ingredients that they serve in the restaurant, all their ingredients are locally sourced. That means they get it from somewhere nearby.
All natural, all locally sourced.
So for openers, all of the wood here was locally sourced.
Locally sourced fresh food.
The electromagnetic seal. You do understand the circuits cannot be cut locally.
He became a skilled chef with a flair for innovating new locally sourced dishes.
Morrison had been strangled and shot by Walter McMillan, known locally as Johnny Deep. McMillan was convicted by a jury who recommended a life sentence.
Isn't there a thing like think globally, act locally?
And these two words, fiscal and fiscally. You're talking about money. When we talk about the government, you might hear this word. So the government has fiscal responsibilities. They have responsibilities with money. And if they're not responsible, I can say they're fiscally irresponsible. Many governments are not responsible with money, so they are fiscally irresponsible.
But if you're so fiscally responsible, maybe it's time to kick in some rent here.
Yes, it's not only risky, but it's fiscally irresponsible and doesn't make any sense.
It's both good for the environment and fiscally responsible.
Tell him you'll untie your tubes for a man who's fiscally responsible.
Maybe you need to be more fiscally responsible.
No, I'm saying that it is fiscally irresponsible for me to go to college. You know?
So remember, unless there's only one syllable before C-A-L-L-Y, then the A is silent. And that's with most of the words. Most words you see, with C-A-L-L-Y, the A is silent. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, subscribe to our channel. And if you want to become a member, click the join button. And we'll see you next time.